Ava stumbled upon the mirror in a dusty corner of the antique store, its ornate silver frame glinting faintly despite the dim lighting. She wasn't looking for anything particular that day, but something about the mirror called to her. The carvings, delicate roses and vines intertwined with tiny, grotesque faces, seemed alive, almost breathing. The shopkeeper hesitated when Ava brought it to the counter. "Are you sure you want this one?" he asked, his eyes darting nervously to the mirror. "Yeah, why not? It's gorgeous," Ava replied. The man sighed, wrapping the mirror carefully before muttering, "Be careful with it." That night, Ava hung the mirror in her bedroom, admiring how it gave her small room a touch of elegance. She stood before it, fixing her hair, and thought for a moment that her reflection lingered a second longer than it should have. She dismissed the thought as exhaustion and went to bed. The first few nights were uneventful. Then came the whispers. They started as faint murmurs, barely audible, but distinct enough to jolt her awake. Ava turned on the lights, scanning the room, but found nothing. Her reflection in the mirror stared back at her, as expected, though something about it seemed off. She couldn't place it, but her reflection's eyes felt sharper, more aware. Days turned into weeks, and the occurrences became harder to ignore. One evening, as she stood brushing her hair, she caught her reflection smiling at her. A slow, deliberate grin that didn't match the blank expression on her own face. Ava froze, dropping the brush. The grin lingered for a heartbeat too long before disappearing. By the next morning, Ava's unease had turned to dread. She began covering the mirror with a sheet, but even then she felt its presence, like eyes boring into her back. Her sleep was plagued with nightmares of herself trapped inside the mirror, banging on the glass while something that looked like her roamed free. One day, Ava noticed a bruise on her arm, a dark, angry mark she couldn't remember getting. She shrugged it off, assuming she'd bumped into something, but the bruises multiplied, appearing on her legs, shoulders, even her neck. Her reflection remained untouched, its perfect skin mocking her pain. Desperate, Ava confided in her best friend, Lisa. "You're imagining things," Lisa said, though her tone lacked conviction. "It's just an old mirror." "I'm not crazy," Ava snapped. "It's doing something to me. I feel it." Reluctantly, Lisa agreed to stay the night. But as darkness fell, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent. Lisa claimed she didn't hear anything, but her pale face suggested otherwise. At one point, Lisa glanced at the mirror and screamed. "What? What is it?" Ava demanded. "Your reflection, it moved." From that moment, Lisa refused to return to Ava's house. Alone and terrified, Ava decided to research the mirror's origins. She uncovered an old newspaper article about a woman named Eleanor Blackwell, a supposed witch executed in the 1800s. The mirror had been hers, a tool she used to trap her enemies' souls. Ava knew she had to get rid of it. She took the mirror to the backyard and smashed it with a hammer. The shards exploded outward, each piece reflecting her face twisted in agony. But as the last piece shattered, Ava felt a cold hand grip her shoulder. She turned, but no one was there. That night, as Ava sat in her room, a new mirror appeared on her wall, whole and unbroken. Her reflection stared back, smiling again. But this time, Ava couldn't look away. She realized with horror that she wasn't in her room anymore. She was inside the mirror, pounding on the glass, while her reflection turned and walked away into her life. Inside the cold, endless void of the mirror, Ava's voice echoed back to her, distorted and mocking. Every corner reflected her trapped image, showing her frantic attempts to find a way out. Her fists pounded the smooth glass, but it didn't even tremble. On the other side, her reflection, the imposter, smiled and waved before walking away, leaving her to the silence. Hours passed, or perhaps days. Time didn't exist in this strange prison. The only thing that did was the oppressive weight of her isolation and the whispers that now spoke directly to her. "You belong here now," they hissed. "This is where all the cursed reside." Ava's heart sank. She realized that she wasn't alone in the mirror. Faint figures emerged in the reflective surfaces around her. They were blurry at first, but as they moved closer, their twisted faces came into focus. Men, women, and children from different eras, all trapped like her. What is this place?" Ava whispered, her voice trembling. A woman stepped forward, her translucent form shimmering faintly. "We are the lost souls of the mirror," she said. "The witch bound us here, and now you are one of us." "No!" Ava screamed, backing away. "There has to be a way out." "There isn't," the woman replied, her face sorrowful. Ava remembered how her reflection had smiled before walking away. That wasn't her. It was the entity inside the mirror. It had taken her life, leaving her trapped here like so many others. But Ava wasn't ready to give up. She was determined to fight. Meanwhile, on the outside, the imposter Ava blended seamlessly into her life. Her friends and family noticed subtle changes. She was colder, more distant, and had a strange, predatory smile. But no one suspected the truth. Lisa, however, couldn't shake the unease she felt. She tried calling Ava, but her calls went unanswered. Finally, she decided to confront her in person. When Lisa arrived, she found Ava sitting in her room, staring at the mirror. "Ava?" Lisa asked cautiously. The imposter turned, her eyes glinting unnaturally. "What are you doing here, Lisa?" Lisa's stomach churned. Something was very wrong. "Are you okay? You've been acting different." The imposter smirked. "Different or better?" Lisa frowned, her gaze flicking to the mirror. For a moment, she thought she saw movement. Ava's real reflection, screaming silently, pounding on the glass. "Ava!" Lisa whispered, stepping closer to the mirror. The imposter lunged forward, grabbing Lisa's wrist. "Don't look too closely, Lisa. You might not like what you see." But it was too late. Lisa's eyes widened as she saw Ava inside the mirror, pleading for help. She wrenched her arm free and stumbled back. "What the hell are you?" Lisa demanded. The imposter laughed, her voice echoing unnaturally. "I'm Freedom. And Ava? She's exactly where she belongs." Ava watched the interaction helplessly, her hope flickering. Lisa had seen her, but could she do anything? The other trapped souls whispered around her. "If she breaks the mirror, the entity will be weakened. But it's dangerous, for her and for you." Ava's mind raced. She had to communicate with Lisa somehow. Concentrating, she placed her hands against the glass and screamed with everything she had. Her voice, faint but audible, reached Lisa. "Lisa, break the mirror!" Lisa hesitated, unsure if she was hearing things. But when she saw Ava's desperate face, she knew what she had to do. Grabbing a heavy lamp, she smashed the mirror with all her strength. The mirror shattered, sending shards flying across the room. A deafening wail filled the air as the imposter shrieked, her body contorting unnaturally. The fragments of glass dissolved into smoke, and the real Ava was hurled out of the void, landing on the floor with a gasp. The imposter dissolved into a shadowy mist, disappearing into the night. Ava and Lisa stared at the shattered remnants of the mirror, their hearts pounding. "It's over," Lisa said, though her voice was shaky. Ava wasn't so sure. The faces of the trapped souls lingered in her mind. Not all of them had escaped. The mirror's curse wasn't gone. It had only been broken temporarily, and somewhere in another dusty antique store, the shards of the mirror were beginning to reform. Ava and Lisa stood amidst the shattered pieces of the mirror, the room heavy with an unsettling quiet. The faint wails of the trapped souls still echoed in Ava's mind. She reached out and clutched Lisa's arm, her body trembling. "Lisa, we can't leave it like this," Ava whispered. "The curse isn't gone. It's just waiting." Lisa glanced at the shards on the floor, unease prickling her skin. "What do you mean? We broke it. You're free." "For now," Ava said, her voice hollow. "But those faces I saw, they're still trapped. The mirror will pull itself back together. It always does." Lisa frowned, her instinct to leave and never return fighting with her loyalty to Ava. "So what do we do? Destroy it completely?" Ava nodded but hesitated. "If we destroy it without knowing how, we could release something worse. I need to understand more about Eleanor Blackwell and the curse. We need answers. The search for Eleanor's secrets." Over the next few days, Ava and Lisa delved into the town's archives. They discovered that Eleanor Blackwell was not just a witch accused of malevolent magic. She was a woman wronged by the townsfolk, betrayed and executed for crimes she didn't commit. Before her death, she cursed her most prized possession, the mirror, to become a prison for those who had wronged her and anyone unfortunate enough to encounter it afterward. One of the old records revealed a disturbing detail. The curse could not be lifted unless the mirror was destroyed in its entirety, but doing so risked unleashing Eleanor's wrath. "The curse isn't just about trapping people," Ava said, piecing it together. "Eleanor's spirit is bound to the mirror. Destroying it might free her, but if she's as vengeful as these records suggest..." Lisa shuddered. "We'll have to find a way to destroy the mirror and contain her spirit. Is that even possible?"